I want you to close your eyes for a second. Okay, well, metaphorically, if you're driving, imagine you're standing in one of those pristine, white-walled, contemporary art galleries that's aggressively quiet. You're wearing a black turtleneck, ideally, and right in front of you is this massive canvas, and it is violent. I mean, we're talking sharp angles, heavy slashes of crimson red, and pitch black. It looks like an explosion, just frozen.
A scene of absolute chaos.
Exactly. Chaos. And you're just standing there staring at it, and you feel this jolt. It's a little bit of unease, maybe, but also a thrill. So you look around, see if anyone else is confused. But no, they look thoughtful. So you adjust your face, you put on your serious art appreciator mask, and you look at the little placard on the wall that says something vague, like untitled after the argument, and you nod. You think, I get it. You're appreciating the artist's raw emotional honesty. You feel cultured.
And that right there, that is the exact moment you've been tricked.
Tricked. Come on.
Yeah.
I felt like I was having a profound moment. Connecting with the human condition.
You were having a moment, certainly. But it wasn't about beauty. And I would argue it wasn't really about truth. In that moment, staring at those violent red slashes, you were safely consuming a dose of aggression. You were participating in a hidden contract.
A contract, that sounds very transactional for a Sunday afternoon at the museum.
It is. It's a silent pact between the creator, the culture, and you. See, we like to tell ourselves that art is this window to the soul, or a way to heal, a celebration of the human spirit. But if we really look at the mechanics of the human mind, if we strip away all the romanticism, art serves a much more primal function. It is a pressure valve, a sophisticated way to handle our darkest, most antisocial instincts without actually hurting anyone.
So you're saying that painting isn't just an expression of feelings, it's, what, a weapon?
It's a weapon that's been disarmed just enough to be hung on a wall. Consider this. What if every single brushstroke, every dissonant chord in a symphony, every tragic play is at its core a carefully disguised act of violence?
Okay, let's unpack this, because that is a heavy accusation to level at, the entirety of human creativity. Michelangelo, Beethoven, Shakespeare, you're saying they were all just venting. That feels incredibly reductive. You're ignoring beauty, empathy. Surely art is more than just a pressure valve for the lizard brain.
It feels reductive because we prefer the noble lie. But look at what human beings actually are. Strip away the pleasantries, and we are not gentle creatures. We aren't born just wanting to be loved.
I mean, I like to think I'm a generally nice person. I hold doors open for people.
You are a nice person because you've been trained to be.
Yeah.
You've been broken in like a wild horse. But deep down, the anthropological view, the Freudian view, really, is that man is a fundamentally aggressive being. We are driven by Thanatos.
Thanatos, the death drive.
The instinct for destruction. It's as real and as demanding as our drive for sex or food. We have an impulse to dominate, to tear down, to destroy. But, and here's the problem, civilization can't function if we're all running around acting on those impulses.
Right. If I acted on every impulse I had in rush hour traffic, society would collapse by noon.
Precisely. So, civilization has to do something with all that energy. It erects a great edifice of morality and law, but more importantly, it builds a policeman inside your head. The superego.
The internal critic.
Oh, it's more than a critic. It's a harsh, authoritarian judge. The superego, it turns your aggression inward. When you want to strike out at someone, the superego steps in and says, no, that is forbidden. And instead of hitting them, you feel guilt.
Guilt is the price of admission for society.
It's the tax we pay for community. But here's the problem with that tax. Aggression isn't like money. You can't just pay it and be done. It's energy. Physics tells us energy doesn't just vanish. So where does it go? It sits there, it simmers. It's like an old boiler in a basement. The pressure is rising. The needle's in the red. If you don't find a vent, the whole house goes up.
And this is where the art gallery comes back in, the vent.
Exactly. This is where art becomes essential infrastructure. It's not a luxury. It's a safety mechanism. Freud called it sublimation.
Sublimation, I've heard the term, but yeah, let's pin it down.
Think of it like a hydroelectric dam. You have this violent, raging river of instinct. That's the impulse. If you let it run free, it floods the village. But if you build a dam, that's civilization, you can force that water through a turbine. Suddenly, that destructive force is generating electricity. It's powering the lights.
So the aggression is the water, and the art is the electricity.
Precisely. The painter who wants to slash and burn, instead he slashes the canvas, he creates controlled chaos. The writer who harbors a murderous rage against his father doesn't kill him. He writes a tragedy about an Oedipal conflict. The composer who feels a storm of fury writes a bombastic, cathartic symphony.
It's alchemy, turning lead into gold, or I guess turning murder into a masterpiece.
But notice what happens to you, the viewer. When you looked at that painting in your turtleneck, you felt the thrill. Why? Because you were allowed to touch that aggression. You were allowed to gaze upon the destruction, but because it was framed as high art, the internal policeman, he let it slide. You didn't feel guilt. You felt aesthetic appreciation.
That puts a very different spin on art history, but I have to challenge you on this because you're making it sound like all art is just secret anger. What about religious art, the Renaissance? That was about glory and God and faith. You can't tell me a painting of a saint is secret violence.
Can't I? Let's look closer. Think about the depictions of martyrdom that filled the churches of Europe for centuries. Saint Sebastian, pierced by arrows. Saint Agatha with her severed breasts on a platter. Saint Bartholomew being flayed alive. His skin literally peeled off his body while he holds it like a cloak.
Okay, when you list them like that, it sounds like a horror movie. But the intent was spiritual.
Was it? The artists rendered that torn flesh and contorted agony with meticulous, almost loving detail. Now, on the surface, yes, these are pious images. Look at how much they suffered for their faith. But what is the subconscious experience of looking at them?
It's a sanctioned way to look at torture?
Exactly. It was a safe space for a culture to collectively indulge its fascination with pain and suffering. The church provided the moral framework. This is holy. But the artist provided the outlet for the very impulses that the church was trying to suppress. You could stare at a flayed man and call it prayer.
That is terrifyingly convincing, but that was hundreds of years ago. We're more civilized now, surely. We don't stare at flayed saints in the town square.
We like to think we've evolved past that, don't we? But the anthropological truth is that the hardware of the human mind hasn't changed in 500 years. Only the software has. We don't have flayed saints, we have 4K IMAX screens. The mechanism is identical. We still need the blood, we just need a modern moral license to enjoy it.
You're talking about action movies.
The summer blockbuster. Look at the body count. The hero kills 100 people in 2 hours. But it's sanitized brutality. We cheer for it. Why? Because the violence is framed as righteous vengeance. The hero is good, the villains are bad, so we're allowed to enjoy the destruction. We get to feel the thrill of the kill without the guilt.
It's the same logic. The moral framework is just, he kidnapped my daughter instead of he died for the church.
Precisely. Or look at the horror genre, a billion-dollar industry built entirely on vicarious terror. We pay money to be terrified in a safe seat. It's a pressure valve. But let's go even more modern. Let's talk about the internet.
Oh, the internet is a cauldron of aggression. That's undeniable.
So think about meme culture, the passive-aggressive snark.
The cutting remark.
It's literal in its metaphor. The desire to wound someone, which is socially unacceptable to do directly to your neighbor, is sublimated into the perfect, witty, cutting meme. And when you share it, you get a little hit of dopamine, you've let off some steam.
So my frustration with my boss, or my annoyance at politics, or just my general envy of other people.
That is the fuel. Your personal frustrations are the raw material of the collective unconscious. The artist, or the meme creator, acts as a psychic lightning rod. They take that ambient aggression floating in the air and they give it form. They make the invisible visible.
It's funny, we usually think of the artist as this rebel, this outlier, but in your view, they're actually performing a public service. They're the sanitation workers of the psyche.
In a way, yes. But here is the unsettling twist for you. When you feel that relief, that pleasure at a dark work of art, are you really connecting with the artist? Or are you participating in a ritual of self-deception?
Self-deception how?
Because you're using the art to pacify yourself. You've been given a safe way to touch the darkness, and in doing so, you have agreed to leave it there on a canvas and go back to your orderly, civilized life. You aren't changing anything, you're just taking your medicine.
That leads us to a really difficult paradox, because we love the idea of the rebel artist, the one who speaks truth to power, the one who shakes up the system. But if I'm following you, you're saying that even the rebellion is part of the system.
This is the trap, the illusion of transgression. We think art challenges power, but historically, it often just reinforces it.
Give me a concrete example, because I can think of plenty of satire that brought people down.
Did it? Or did it just let people laugh off their anger? Look at the court jester. In the medieval court, the jester was the only person allowed to mock the king. He could speak the unspeakable. He could use satire.
Right, satire is the classic form of rebellion.
But the jester had a license. He was allowed to vent the court's steam. By letting the jester mock him, the king actually demonstrated his confidence and resilience. The mockery didn't topple the king, it stabilized the court by releasing tension. If the nobles were laughing, they weren't plotting.
So the modern satirist, the late-night host, the political cartoonist, they're just the modern jesters.
They have a license to speak, but only to a point. It reinforces the system's resilience rather than breaking it.
Okay, but what about something deeper? Literature. Let's take Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky. That is a book about a man, Raskolnikov, who decides he's above the law. He commits a murder just to prove he can. That is a radical, dangerous act.
It is an intellectual assertion of will. He tries to defy the moral order. But think about the experience of actually reading that book. You aren't just watching Raskolnikov, you become him. You feel the sweat on his brow. You feel the paranoia when the police knock on the door. Dostoevsky makes you complicit.
It is stressful. I remember reading it in college and feeling physically ill.
Exactly. But then what does the author do? He turns the screws. He makes the guilt so unbearable, the psychological torment so intense, that by page 600, you, the reader, are begging for him to confess. You are begging for the law to step in just to end the tension.
You want him to get caught. You want the relief.
The author forces you to crave the authority you thought you wanted to destroy. The aggression is expressed, the murder happens, but then it is contained, punished, and neutralized by the moral order. The reader goes on that journey into darkness and is brought back to the conclusion: the law is right. Guilt is inescapable.
So the book actually serves the superego. It acts like a simulation that proves rebellion is impossible.
It strengthens the internal policeman.
Okay, but let's move to the 20th century. Modern art. You mentioned Francis Bacon earlier. Screaming Popes, Twisted Meat. Or Willem de Kooning's Women series. That stuff is violent. It's ugly.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it's reinforcing any moral order.
You're right. In the 20th century, the beast wasn't fully caged anymore. After the World Wars, after the Holocaust, the aggression, it leaked through the cracks. It couldn't be fully sublimated into beauty.
So was that real rebellion? Did the system finally break?
Look at where those paintings are now.
They're in museums.
They're luxury goods, status symbols. A Francis Bacon painting of a screaming, tormented soul sells for tens of millions of dollars to a hedge fund manager.
That is a depressing image. The scream of existential horror hanging in a boardroom.
The market is the ultimate neutralizer. It files down the fangs of radical art. It turns horror into a commodity. You hang the horror in the boardroom and it becomes edgy. It becomes a sign that you are sophisticated enough to handle the darkness.
It's a feedback loop. We trade authenticity for acceptance. We demand cultural products that absolve us of our aggressive thoughts, and the market provides them.
And we pay handsomely for the privilege of being absolved.
This brings us to a really dark place, though. If even the most violent, radical art is just absorbed by the system, is there any escape?
This is the deepest irony of the Freudian view. Expressing the forbidden is actually the ultimate form of submission.
Expression is submission. That sounds backwards. If I scream, I'm submitting.
Think about the mechanism. When a rebel speaks, when they create something that attacks the institutions, the galleries, the media, the universities, what do those institutions do? Do they crumble?
No. Usually they invite the rebel to give a TED Talk.
Precisely. They absorb the critique. By giving the rebel a stage, the system inoculates itself against real revolution. It says, look how open-minded we are. We even let this person attack us. And the energy of the rebellion creates content, not change.
It's like the system is a giant sponge. It just soaks it all up.
It is too hungry. It consumes everything.
So where does the true impulse find its voice? If I'm actually angry, if I actually want to change something, where do I go? Do I just stay silent?
Even silence can be sold. You can create a conceptual art piece called The Unsayable, consisting of an empty room, and curators will write essays about its profundity. Wellness apps sell you silence. Mindfulness is sold as a product to help you cope with the stress of the system so you can go back to work the next day.
It's a market of silence. Everything is captured.
Everything.
So for the listener right now, this is an unsettling twist, because we're not just talking about artists anymore. We're talking about them.
We are talking about the consumer. When you listen to a true crime podcast, when you watch a dark drama, when you stand in front of that painting, if you feel relief or pleasure, you aren't connecting with the artist's pain. You are participating in a ritual of self-deception.
A psychic surrender.
You are agreeing to the terms of the contract. You are saying, I will take this safe packaged dose of darkness so that I don't have to confront the real darkness inside myself or the real problems in the world.
Wait, hold on. You're turning this on the listener now. You're saying that by enjoying this deep dive, by enjoying art, they are. What? Being cowards? That feels harsh. Maybe they just like the painting?
It is not about cowardice. It is about function. We are discussing the function of culture, and its function is to keep the peace at the cost of our authentic selves.
Wow. Okay. That is a lot to process. I usually like to end these deep dives with a takeaway, something actionable, but this feels different. This feels like we've stripped away the floorboards and found rot underneath.
The intention is not to give you a comforting answer. The intention is to leave you with the question.
So let's turn this directly to the listener, you listening to this right now. We've been engaging in this high-minded philosophical dialogue for the last 15 minutes.
And you've been nodding along. Maybe you felt a little spark of intellectual excitement.
Yes, society is a defense mechanism. Interesting. I see the patterns.
But ask yourself,
Yeah.
why are you engaging with this? Are you seeking liberation? Are you actually looking for a way out of the cage? Or are you just looking for a more sophisticated frame to hang your repression in? Are you using this very conversation, this podcast, as a way to feel like you've confronted the issue?
So you can turn off the audio, feel smarter, feel like you've done the deep work, and then go back to your day changing absolutely nothing.
Are we just another pressure valve?
Are we just the court jesters?
There is no answer we can give you.
Only the uncomfortable possibility that we are not passive observers. We are active participants in a conspiracy to keep the peace at the cost of our own truth.
The darkness is still there. We just put a frame around it.
Something to mull over. Or, repress. Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.